The void held its secrets in silence. Debris tumbled through space where the Galactic Council's Third Fleet had been. 40 warships reduced to scattered metal and frozen atmosphere. The wreckage caught starlight glinting like broken teeth. Fleet Admiral Meredith Blackwell stood at the observation window of the USS Retribution, watching the aftermath drift past. Her reflection stared back from the reinforced glass. 62 years etched into her face. Red hair streaked with silver pulled back in a regulation bun. Eyes the color of winter storms. She pressed one hand against the cold surface. Beyond the window, a section of hull rotated slowly, its ceremonial markings still visible. The Kreen Empire's crest, 3,000 years of military tradition, gone in 4 hours. They asked why we prepared for 3 centuries for a war that never came, she said quietly. Her voice carried the weight of command, the kind of voice that had ordered fleets into battle and watched good people die. Then the war came. She turned from the window. It lasted 47 days. Behind her, the bridge of the Retribution hummed with restrained power. 200 crew stations, every console active, every officer focused on their duty. This was humanity's flagship, not the largest vessel in the fleet, not the newest, but the one that bore witness, the one that remembered. Commander Thaddeus Grimwood approached from the tactical station, 48 years old, salt and pepper hair, cropped military short, a face carved from granite and old battles. He carried a data tablet, but did not offer it yet. "Admiral," he said, "the recording is ready." Blackwell nodded once. "Transmit it to Earth. Presidential authorization. Admiral's eyes only." "Yes, ma'am." She watched him return to his station. Efficient, precise, the kind of officer who understood that silence often communicated more than words. Grimwood had served under her command for 12 years. He had learned when to speak and when to simply execute orders. The recording would reach President Evelyn Hartwell within the hour. It would show what the Council had discovered too late, what 3 centuries of patience had purchased, what humanity truly was. Blackwell walked the length of the bridge, past navigation and communications weapons control and engineering oversight. Her boots struck the deck with measured cadence. Officers straightened as she passed. Not from fear, from respect earned through 20 years of flag rank and 40 years of service before that. She stopped at the forward observation station. Through the reinforced viewports, Earth hung like a blue jewel against infinite darkness. Home, 387 million kilometers distant, the cradle of humanity, the target the Council had threatened. "Display timeline," she said softly. The holographic projection materialized above the console. Dates scrolled past in luminous blue text. Year 1987. First contact. The words hung in the air. Blackwell studied them with eyes that had read too many after-action reports, too many casualty lists, 300 years before her birth, before her grandparents' births, before anyone currently alive had drawn breath. But humanity remembered. Every child learned the history. Every cadet studied the recordings. Every generation passed down the lesson. The stars were not empty, and the things that lived among them were not friendly. "Zoom to Europa sector," she ordered. The hologram shifted. Battle schematics appeared. Red icons for the alien fleet, blue for humanity's desperate defense. The numbers told the story. 15 alien vessels, 43 human ships. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 40 human ships were debris. The remaining 3 limped home with 60% casualties. The alien fleet withdrew intact. First contact. Humanity's introduction to the galaxy, the day Earth learned it was prey. Blackwell had seen the recordings 100 times, watched the old footage of those first warships being torn apart by weapons humanity barely understood, energy beams that ignored armor, missiles that tracked through impossible maneuvers, technology centuries beyond anything Earth possessed. She had watched her species nearly die. Next entry, she said. Year 1987. Protocol. Sentinel activated. The president's address played in miniature. Old video. Ancient by modern standards. But the words remained sharp. We cannot allow this to happen again. We will not allow this to happen again. As of this moment, every resource of this planet is directed toward a single purpose. Survival. Not just for us, for our children, our grandchildren, every generation that follows. We will prepare. For as long as it takes, we will be ready. The president paused, the weight of the decision visible in the set of his shoulders. Protocol Sentinel is now in effect. Starting today, we build for war while we pray for peace. Every ship will serve dual purpose. Every station will be a fortress. Every citizen will train. And we will do this in silence. We will show the galaxy only what we want them to see. The recording ended. Blackwell dismissed the hologram with a gesture. She knew the rest, knew it in her bones. 3 centuries of construction. Shipyards hidden in asteroid belts. Weapons development in the dark spaces between planets. A civilization that appeared peaceful while building the most sophisticated war machine in galactic history. 300 years of the longest strategic deception ever attempted. And now, the deception was over. Admiral Grimwood's voice held careful neutrality. Incoming transmission. Council station. High Counselor Valsheen requests communication. Blackwell turned. The elderly counselor. Yes, ma'am. She's requesting private channel. Priority diplomatic. Interesting. Valsheen had been the only council member who seemed to understand. During the negotiations 3 weeks ago, while the others postured and threatened, the ancient Eldari had simply watched. Those alien eyes seeing too much. Route it to my ready room, Blackwell said. I'll take it there. The ready room adjoined the bridge, small by necessity. A desk, 2 chairs, 1 wall displaying the seal of Earth's unified government. Another wall showing the fleet roster. 87 capital ships currently in active service. 3,400 warships total when including the reserve fleet and automated platforms. The Council's intelligence had been catastrophically wrong. Blackwell settled into her chair as the view screen activated. The Eldari counselor appeared. Humanoid but distinctly alien. Pale skin with an almost luminescent quality. Eyes too large and too knowing. She wore robes of office that had witnessed centuries. Admiral Blackwell, Valsheen's voice carried harmonics that human vocal cord could not produce. I hope this communication finds you well. Counselor, Blackwell kept her tone neutral, professional. I assume you're not calling to offer congratulations. The ghost of something that might have been a smile touched Valsheen's features. No, I am calling because I understand what you did, what your species accomplished, and I wanted to speak before the others realized the full implications. Blackwell said nothing. Let the silence extend. An old interrogator's trick. People filled silence. They revealed more than they intended. Valsheen did not disappoint. 300 years, the counselor said softly. 300 years of patience, of discipline, building in secret while showing us only peaceful traders, agricultural haulers, and research stations. We saw what you wanted us to see. You saw what you expected to see, Blackwell corrected. The council has ruled for 3,000 years. You forgot what it means to prepare, to truly prepare. Yes, Valsheen inclined her head slightly. We grew comfortable. We assumed our superiority was natural, permanent. We forgot that strength must be maintained, that vigilance cannot sleep. Is this a warning, counselor? No, Admiral. This is respect, professional respect from someone who has lived long enough to recognize strategic brilliance when she sees it. The Eldari's expression shifted, something approaching sadness. But respect will not stop what comes next. The Council will mobilize everything, every ship, every species. They will come for you with overwhelming force. Blackwell met those alien eyes without flinching. Let them come. Valsheen studied her for a long moment. You genuinely believe you can win. I know we can win. Blackwell leaned forward slightly. The question is whether the Council understands the cost of making us prove it. Admiral, 40,000 civilians, Counselor. Blackwell's voice dropped to something colder than the void beyond the hull. 40,000 men, women and children. New Horizon colony. They killed them to make a point, to demonstrate Council authority. She reached into her desk drawer, withdrew a photograph, placed it on the desk where the camera could see it. A little girl, 7 years old, red hair in braids, gap-toothed smile. Emma Blackwell, the Admiral said quietly. My granddaughter, she was on New Horizon for a school field trip, learning about colonial agriculture. She wanted to be a farmer when she grew up. Valshin's expression showed genuine grief. Admiral, I am. Don't. Blackwell's hand moved fractionally, a gesture stopping the condolence before it formed. Don't offer words. The Council crossed a line. Now they'll learn why humanity spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment. She picked up the photograph, studied it for a heartbeat, then placed it back in the drawer. When she looked up again, her face was stone. We gave the galaxy 300 years of peace. We asked for nothing except to be left alone. The Council responded with ultimatums, with threats, with the murder of children. Blackwell's voice remained steady, level, the kind of calm that came before storms. So now they get what they demanded. War. Real war. The kind humanity has practiced on itself for 10,000 years. Valshin was silent for several seconds. When she spoke, her voice carried something that sounded like sorrow. Then may the ancients have mercy on us all. Mercy. Blackwell Olpent smiled. Almost. Counselor, we're going to show the galaxy something it hasn't seen in 3,000 years. We're going to teach you what war really means. Not ceremonial battles. Not honorable engagements. War as total commitment. War as mathematics and logistics and will. She stood. The camera angle shifted to track her movement. And when it's over, when the Council lies broken and defeated, we're going to do something that will confuse you even more. Blackwell's eyes held no warmth, no mercy, but also no hatred. Only cold determination. We're going to help you rebuild, because that's what Guardians do. The transmission ended. Blackwell stood alone in the ready room. Out of sight, but never out of mind. That gap-toothed smile. Those eager questions about farming and space and whether Grandma would come visit soon. Gone. Turned to ash and frozen atmosphere by Council weapons. A casualty in a war that didn't need to happen. A price extracted for the crime of humanity wanting independence. The Admiral's hand trembled once. Just once. Then steadied. She had work to do. The bridge doors opened at her approach. Grimwood looked up from tactical. Admiral, Earth acknowledges receipt of the recording. President Hartwell is convening the Security Council within the hour. Understood. Blackwell moved to the command chair, settled into it with the ease of long practice. Status of the fleet. First strike group is at full readiness. 240 capital ships holding position at Rally Point Sigma. Crews are rested and supplied. All systems green across the board. Second and third groups. Standing by at designated coordinates, Admiral Ravencroft reports her fast attack squadron is prepared for immediate deployment. Blackwell nodded. Isolde Ravencroft, 45 years old, cold as vacuum and twice as ruthless, the perfect choice for strike operations. The kind of officer who understood that mercy had its place, but war required different thinking. Communications open fleet-wide channel. Command frequency. The communications officer's fingers danced across her console. Channel open, Admiral. You're transmitting to all ships. Blackwell touched the arm of her chair, activating the recording system. Her words would be heard by 73,000 personnel across 240 warships. They would be archived, studied in academies for generations. She chose them with care. This is Fleet Admiral Blackwell to all ships of First Strike Group. 3 weeks ago, the Galactic Council gave us an ultimatum. Submit or be corrected. We offered to negotiate, to find peaceful resolution. The Council responded by attacking New Horizon colony. 40,000 civilians died, men, women and children who never hurt anyone, who only wanted to live and work and raise families. She paused. Let the weight settle. The Council made a calculation. They assumed we were weak, that our peaceful nature meant we lacked the will to fight. They forgot something important. They forgot why we spent 300 years preparing. Another pause. In her mind's eye, she saw the fleet. 240 ships holding perfect formation in the dark. Crews listening, understanding. We prepare because we remember. We remember first contact. We remember watching our ships burn. We remember what it means to be prey. And we swore never again. Blackwell's voice remained steady, but underneath ran iron. So now the Council gets what they demanded. War. But not their war, not the ceremonial battles they're accustomed to. They're going to learn how humanity fights. Fast, brutal, efficient. We're going to demonstrate 3 centuries of accumulated knowledge, 3 centuries of weapons development, 3 centuries of tactical innovation. She leaned forward slightly. Emphasis. But we're also going to show them something else. We're going to show them restraint, discipline, the difference between capacity and intention. Yes, we can destroy them completely, utterly, but we won't. Because we're not like them. We fight to protect, not to conquer. We fight to survive, not to subjugate. The Admiral straightened. All ships will follow engagement protocols exactly. Disable enemy vessels when possible. Destroy when necessary. Deploy rescue operations for survivors. Medical ships will treat enemy wounded without prejudice. We will demonstrate that humanity is strong enough to be merciful, and that mercy is not weakness. She touched the comm control again, about to close the channel, then added one final thought. Emma Blackwell was 7 years old. She wanted to be a farmer. The Council took that future from her. But they won't take ours. We're going to win this war. And then we're going to build a galaxy where little girls can dream about farming without fear. That's what we fight for. That's why we'll win. Blackwell out. The channel closed. Silence filled the bridge. Officers returned to their duties. But something had shifted. Resolve crystallized into action. 300 years of preparation focused down to a single point. War. Admiral Grimwood said quietly, "Jump coordinates are locked. The fleet is ready." Blackwell studied the tactical display. 240 blue icons. Her responsibility, her command. 73,000 lives depending on her decisions. Behind them, Earth. Behind Earth, every colony, every station, every human being who ever looked at the stars and hoped for a future. "Helm," she said, voice carrying across the bridge. "Take us in. All ships execute jump on my mark." The tactical display showed the target, Kepler Expanse, where the Council's punishment fleet waited. 400 warships arranged in perfect formation. Ceremonial, beautiful. Exactly what 3,000 years of military tradition prescribed. Exactly what humanity had spent 3 centuries learning to defeat. "Jump in 3, Blackwell said. 2, 1. Mark. The universe folded. Space twisted around the Retribution's hull. The jump drive pulled them through dimensions human minds couldn't properly comprehend. For 3 seconds, that felt like eternity, they existed everywhere and nowhere. Then they arrived. Kepler Expanse bloomed across the view screen, a region of space notable for its emptiness. No planets, no asteroids, nothing except the Council fleet. 400 warships hung in perfect formation. Their hulls gleamed with ceremonial paint. Their weapons tracked the human arrival with mechanical precision. They looked magnificent, terrible, the accumulated might of a galactic empire that had ruled unchallenged for 3 millennia. They looked invincible. Blackwell studied them with eyes that had read the after-action reports from first contact, that had studied every battle in human history, that had spent 40 years learning how wars were truly won. Analysis, she said calmly. Grimwood's fingers moved across his console. 412 capital ships, green heavy cruisers forming the core, Vesh carrier groups on the flanks, support vessels distributed throughout. Perfect defensive formation, exactly what their doctrine prescribes. Weaknesses, their position for intimidation, not combat effectiveness. Overlapping fields of fire create blind spots. Their formation assumes we'll approach traditionally. And Admiral Grimwood looked up, something like satisfaction in his granite features. They have no idea what our weapons can really do. Blackwell almost smiled. No, she agreed. They don't. The communications console chimed. Admiral, we're being hailed. Multiple frequencies. High Imperator Zarthekon himself. On screen. The view screen shifted. The Council fleet vanished, replaced by the bridge of the Kryn flagship. And there in all his reptilian glory stood the High Imperator. Zarthekon looked exactly like his species' reputation suggested. Scaled skin, the color of dried blood. Eyes that reflected light with predatory intensity. He wore robes of office, decorated with symbols representing 3,000 years of conquest. Behind him, green officers stood at attention, proud, confident, certain of their superiority. Human Admiral, Zarthekon's voice carried across the void, translated by computer but retaining its contemptuous edge. I am High Imperator Zarthekon of the Kryn Empire, Supreme Commander of the Council's military forces. You have been summoned to witness the consequences of defiance. Blackwell regarded him with the expression she might use when examining something unpleasant scraped from her boot. I'm aware of your title, she said flatly. What I'm not aware of is any legitimate reason for this confrontation. Earth violated no laws, threatened no one. We simply decline to submit to your authority. The Council's authority is absolute. No, Blackwell's voice remained level. It's not, which is what we're here to discuss. Zarthekon's expression darkened. There will be no discussion, only demonstration. Your species will witness the price of rebellion. You will surrender, submit to Council rule, and perhaps we will show mercy. Now Blackwell did smile, cold as vacuum. Like the mercy you showed the children of New Horizon Colony. The High Imperator waved one scaled hand dismissively. Collateral necessity to demonstrate Council resolve. 40,000 civilians, children. You murdered children to make a political point. I terminated resistance, which is what I will do to your fleet unless you comply immediately. Blackwell was quiet for several seconds. When she spoke again, her voice dropped to something colder than anything Zarthekon had ever heard. High Imperator, I want you to understand something. What's about to happen is not revenge. It's not anger. It's simple mathematics. You crossed a line. Now you pay the price. Not because we hate you. Because you need to learn that actions have consequences. She leaned forward slightly, eyes locked with those alien orbs. The Council has ruled for 3,000 years. You've won every war, crushed every rebellion. You forgot what it means to face a peer opponent. You especially forgot what it means to face a species that spent 3 centuries preparing for this exact moment. Zarthekon laughed. Actually laughed. You bring 240 ships against 400. Your arrogance matches your ignorance. High Imperator, Blackwell said softly. Those aren't our only ships. She made a small gesture. Behind her, Grimwood worked his console. The tactical display updated. Where there had been 240 blue icons, there were now 3,400. The second and third strike groups had arrived, emerging from jump points across the expanse, surrounding the Council fleet from every angle. A sphere of human warships that suddenly terrifyingly outnumbered the Council 8-1. On the view screen, Blackwell watched Zarthekon's expression change. Watched understanding dawn, watched the High Imperator realize his intelligence had been catastrophically wrong. How? The reptilian's voice had lost its certainty. 300 years,
Blackwell said simply. Every ship dual purpose. Every agricultural hauler was actually a warship. Every research station was actually a weapons platform. We showed you what we wanted you to see, and you believed it. She stood. The camera tracked her movement. High Imperator Zarthekon, I'm giving you one opportunity. Withdraw from human space.
Order all council forces to stand down. Do this immediately and we'll consider the matter closed. The council does not retreat. Then the council will learn what 3 centuries of preparation bought humanity. Blackwell cut the transmission. Silence filled the bridge. Officers waited. The moment balanced on a knife edge. 3,400 human ships against 400 council vessels. Mathematics said this would be a massacre. Mathematics was correct. Admiral Grimwood said quietly, "Enemy fleet is powering weapons. They're committing to engagement." Blackwell settled back into her command chair, studied the tactical display with eyes that had seen too many battles. Her hand rested on the arm of the chair. Steady, no tremor now, only cold certainty. "All ships," she said, voice carrying across the fleet. 73,000 personnel hearing her words simultaneously. Protocol overwhelming dominance is now in effect. Weapons free. And the war began. The first human weapon fired at 14:37:22 Universal Standard Time. It was not a missile, not a beam, not anything the Galactic Council's sensors immediately recognized. The tactical computers aboard the Kryn flagship registered a spatial distortion. A quantum fluctuation that shouldn't exist in normal space. Then the forward section of the heavy cruiser, KNS Dominant Truth, simply ceased to exist. Not exploded, not shattered, ceased, as if 300 meters of warship had been surgically removed from reality. The atmosphere vented in a crystalline spray. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut. Alarms screamed across every channel. The crew never knew what killed them. On the bridge of the USSS Retribution Fleet, Admiral Meredith Blackwell watched the tactical display update. One red icon flickered and died. Around it, 411 others remained. Face the shift torpedo impact confirmed. Grimwood reported. His voice carried professional satisfaction. Direct hit, targeted destruction only. No collateral damage to adjacent vessels. Acknowledged. Blackwell's eyes tracked the developing battle. All batteries begin systematic engagement. Priority Alpha targets first. Remember the protocols. Across 3,400 human warships, weapon systems came online with deadly precision. The phase shift torpedoes had been theoretical until 15 years ago. Quantum mechanics weaponized. The warheads existed in superposition, facing through normal matter until they reached their designated coordinates. Then, they collapsed into standard space-time, occupying the same location as their target. Matter couldn't occupy the same space. Physics resolved the conflict the only way it could. Complete annihilation of everything within the weapon's radius. The Council fleet's energy shields were useless. The shields dispersed energy and deflected physical projectiles. But phase-shift weapons existed outside normal defensive parameters. They struck from dimensions the shields couldn't block. 3 more Kryn cruisers died in the opening salvo. High Imperator Zarthekon stood on his flagship bridge, watching his fleet begin to die. His tactical officer was shouting reports, damage assessments, casualty numbers, ships gone, ships crippled, ships asking for orders that made no sense anymore. Return fire, Zarthekon roared. All vessels, full offensive barrage. The Council fleet obeyed. 400 ships unleashed their weapons simultaneously. Energy beams lanced across the void. Missiles accelerated on pillars of fusion fire. The concentrated firepower could have sterilized the planet. The human fleet dodged, not scattered, not retreated. Dodged. 3,400 warships executing synchronized evasive maneuvers that seemed impossible for vessels that size. They moved like fighter craft, jinking and burning with acceleration that should have pulverized their crews. The Council's weapons hit empty space. Graviton lances commenced firing, Blackwell ordered calmly. The second weapon system activated. Graviton lances were exactly what their name suggested, focused gravitational beams that created localized fields of crushing force. The technology had taken 60 years to develop, another 30 to miniaturize, but the result was worth the investment. A Vesh carrier shuddered as invisible force seized its hull. The gravitational field intensified. Metal screamed. The carrier's spine bent, then snapped. The vessel broke in half, spilling fighter craft like seeds from a broken pod. Emergency pods launched. Crew abandoning ship. Human medical vessels moved in immediately, not to attack, to rescue. All ships. Blackwell broadcast on open channels. Universal translation active. We are deploying rescue operations for enemy survivors. Medical ships will treat wounded without prejudice. Any vessel interfering with rescue operations will be disabled. On the Kryn flagship, Zarthekon stared at his view screen in disbelief. They're rescuing our crews, his tactical officer confirmed. Yes, High Imperator. Human medical vessels are pulling survivors from destroyed ships. They're providing emergency care. While killing us. Yes, sir. Zarthekon felt something he hadn't experienced in 3 decades of military command. Confusion. The humans were annihilating his fleet with weapons he couldn't counter, but simultaneously rescuing the survivors, treating enemy wounded. It made no tactical sense. It made no sense at all. Unless they're trying to prove something, he said slowly, demonstrating capability while showing restraint. Sir, they want us to know they could kill everyone, but choose not to. Zarthekon's voice carried grudging respect. Psychological warfare, more sophisticated than I anticipated. The tactical display updated again. 60 Council ships destroyed or disabled. The battle had been raging for 17 minutes. Human casualties 0. All vessels execute formation Karneth. Zarthekon ordered. Titan formation, overlapping fields of fire. Force them to close range. The Council fleet began repositioning. It was an ancient maneuver, dated back 2,000 years. Every officer trained on it. The formation created a sphere of interlocking fire arcs so dense that nothing could penetrate without taking catastrophic damage. It had never failed. Admiral Blackwell watched the Council ships reposition. Grimwood highlighted the formation on tactical. Classical Karnith, the commander observed. Effective against conventional attack, but it requires ships to maintain fixed positions, which makes them predictable. Blackwell touched her console, opening a channel to the second strike group. Admiral Ravencroft, you're cleared for assault run, Epsilon. Target the formation's western hemisphere. On the bridge of the USSS Nightfall, Captain Isolde Ravencroft received her orders with cold satisfaction. 45 years old, 23 in service. She had been born in a mining colony and grown up understanding that space was unforgiving, that survival required ruthless efficiency. She was very good at ruthless efficiency. All ships of second strike group, Ravencroft transmitted. Execute Epsilon pattern, maximum acceleration, 0-point disruptors on my mark. Her fast attack squadron consisted of 120 vessels, smaller than the capital ships, faster, more maneuverable. They had been built specifically for this kind of engagement. The squadron accelerated, pushing their reactors to 115%. Inertial dampeners strained to keep the crews conscious. They crossed the distance to the Council formation in 40 seconds. The Council fleet fired. Energy beams tracked the approaching human ships. Missiles launched. The defensive fire was textbook perfect. Ravencroft's squadron passed through it like ghosts. The 0-point disruptors created bubbles of quantum uncertainty around each ship. For brief moments, they existed in probability states rather than definite locations. The Council's targeting systems couldn't lock onto targets that were simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. The squadron reached the Council formation and fired. Zero-point disruptors did not destroy ships, they simply turned them off. The weapons created fields that disrupted atomic bonds at the quantum level. Reactors shut down, power systems failed. Life support went to emergency backup. The ships didn't explode, they just went dark, helpless. 17 council vessels went dead in 3 seconds. Medical ships move in, Blackwell ordered. Those crews need life support assistance immediately. Human medical vessels approached the disabled council ships. Emergency airlocks connected. Medical teams boarded. They found Kreen and Vesh and a dozen other species in various states of distress. Oxygen running low, temperature dropping, systems failing. The human medics worked without hesitation, connecting portable life support, stabilizing the wounded, setting up triage areas in the disabled vessel's cargo bays. One crane officer, badly injured, stared up at the human doctor treating her wounds. Why? She managed to ask through her translator. Why help us? We're enemies. The doctor, a woman in her 50s with grey-streaked hair, met the crane's eyes while sealing a pressure bandage. Because that's what we do, she said simply. We're humans. We remember what it means to need help. Back on the Retribution, Blackwell monitored the battle's progress. 91 council ships destroyed or disabled. 321 still fighting. The mathematics were clear. At current engagement rates, the battle would end in approximately 2 hours, with complete human victory. But victory wasn't the point. Open channel to the council flagship, Blackwell ordered. Let's give the High Imperator another opportunity. Zarthekon's face appeared on the view screen. His scaled features showed stress. Behind him, his bridge crew worked frantically. Damage control reports scrolled across displays. Casualty numbers climbed. Admiral Blackwell, the reptilian's voice had lost its earlier arrogance. I assume you're contacting me to demand surrender. No, High Imperator. I'm contacting you to offer it. Blackwell kept her tone professional. Withdraw your remaining ships. Stand down your weapons. This ends immediately. The Council does not surrender. Then more of your people die. For nothing. Because you're not going to win this battle. Your intelligence was wrong. Your assumptions were wrong. And now you're paying the price for 3,000 years of complacency. Zarthekon was silent for several seconds. On his tactical display, another ship vanished. Then another. His fleet hemorrhaging strength, while the human vessels remained untouched. How, he finally asked, voice quieter now. How did you hide all this for 3 centuries? We didn't hide it. We buried it in plain sight. Every agricultural hauler, every research station, every civilian transport, all military vessels with false hulls. You saw what you expected to see. Peaceful traders, boring farmers. You never looked deeper because you never thought you needed to. And the weapons. 300 years of research and development. We knew we couldn't match Council technology directly, so we went sideways. Quantum mechanics, gravitational manipulation, technology that operates outside your defensive parameters. Blackwell leaned forward slightly. High Imperator, you're fighting the accumulated knowledge of a species that spent 3 centuries preparing for this exact scenario. You cannot win. Then kill us. Zarthekon's voice carried defeat. Finish your demonstration. No. Blackwell's response was immediate, firm. That's not who we are. We fight to survive, not to genocide. Look at your sensors, High Imperator. See the medical ships, see your crews being rescued. We're not monsters, we're just very, very prepared. She stood. The camera tracked her movement. I'll give you 24 hours. Withdraw all Council forces from human space. Order a ceasefire. Pull back to your original borders. Do this and we'll consider the matter settled. And if I refuse, then we continue. Ship by ship, system by system, until the Council understands that humanity will not submit. But even then, we'll still rescue your crews, still treat your wounded, because that's what civilization means. Blackwell terminated the connection. Grimwood looked up from tactical. Admiral, do you believe he'll accept? No. Blackwell settled back into her command chair. He's been High Imperator for 30 years. His entire identity is built on Council supremacy. Accepting defeat now would destroy everything he is. So we continue. The battle raged for another 3 hours. The Council fleet fought with increasing desperation. They attempted every tactical maneuver in their 3,000-year history. Classical formations, aggressive assaults, defensive withdrawals. Nothing worked. The human fleet adapted to every strategy before the Council could fully implement it. By 18 Saturday Universal Standard Time, the numbers were catastrophic. Council losses: 312 ships destroyed or disabled, 100 remaining, all showing varying degrees of damage. Human losses: 0 ships destroyed, 0 personnel killed, 17 vessels with minor damage from lucky hits, all damage non-critical. On the Kryn flagship, Zarthekon stood amid chaos. His bridge was a disaster. One console had exploded, killing its operator. Fire suppression systems struggled with electrical fires. The main reactor was operating at 60% capacity. Shields were down to 30% strength. His tactical officer approached, young, barely into his 3rd decade, the kind of officer who should have had a brilliant career ahead of him. "High Imperator," the young Kryn said quietly, "we've lost. Continuing this battle is suicide." Zarthekon looked at him, really looked, saw the resignation in those reptilian eyes, the acceptance that their 3,000-year dominance had ended in 4 hours. "And no," he said softly. He touched his console, opened a channel to all remaining Council ships. "All vessels, this is High Imperator Zarthekon. Cease fire. Power down weapon systems. Activate emergency beacons." His voice carried across the void to 100 dying ships. "We have lost. The battle is over." On the Retribution, Blackwell watched the Council fleet stand down. Red icons on tactical shifted to amber. Weapons signatures vanished. Emergency beacons activated across the battlefield. "All human vessels cease fire," she ordered. "Deploy medical and rescue operations immediately. Priority to vessels showing critical life support failures." The human fleet moved with practiced efficiency. Medical ships approached the most damaged Council vessels. Engineering teams prepared to assist with reactor stabilization. Search and rescue squadrons launched to recover escape pods. The battle had lasted 4 hours and 17 minutes. Human casualties: 0 killed, 37 wounded from the 17 damaged ships, all wounds non-critical. Council casualties: 8,312 killed, 22,000 wounded, 312 ships destroyed or disabled from a fleet of 412. The most one-sided engagement in recorded galactic history. Grimwood approached Blackwell's chair. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission. High Imperator Zarthekon is requesting permission to come aboard. In person. He wants to discuss terms." Blackwell considered this. The High Imperator, coming aboard a human vessel, surrendering in person. The symbolism would be impossible to miss. 3,000 years of Council military supremacy ending in a human warship. "Grant permission," she said. "Have him brought to Conference Room Alpha. Standard security escort." But Grimwood: "Yes, Admiral. Make sure our people treat him with respect. He may be our enemy, but he's a defeated enemy. Dignity matters." 2 hours later, High Imperator Zarthekon stood in Conference Room Alpha aboard the USSS Retribution. He wore his robes of office, though they were scorched and torn. His scaled features showed exhaustion. Behind him stood 2 Kryn guards, ceremonial weapons visible but not drawn. Across from him, Fleet Admiral Blackwell waited. She had not changed from her duty uniform, had not tried to make this more formal than necessary. Just 2 military officers, one victorious, one defeated. "High Imperator," Blackwell said, "please sit." Zarthekon looked at the offered chair. Some alien emotion flickered across his reptilian features. Then he sat. His guards remained standing. You won, he said simply, completely, utterly. My fleet is broken. I am here to discuss terms of surrender. I don't want your surrender. Zarthekon's eyes widened. What? I want your understanding. Blackwell remained standing. High Imperator, this battle didn't need to happen. We asked for nothing except independence, the right to govern ourselves. The Council responded with ultimatums and murder. 40,000 civilians, Zarthekon said quietly. New Horizon colony, that was my order. Yes, I believed it necessary to demonstrate Council authority, to prevent other species from questioning our rule. He was silent for a moment. I was wrong. Blackwell studied him, seeing not a monster, just an old soldier who had made a terrible mistake. High Imperator, here are my terms. The Council withdraws all forces from human space immediately. You recognize the Earth's complete independence. No tribute, no oversight, no strings. She paused. In exchange, we help you rebuild. What? Your fleet is crippled. Your people need medical care. Damaged ships need repair. We'll assist, provide engineering support, medical supplies, whatever you need to get your people home safely. Zarthekon stared at her. Why we attacked you? Killed your people. Why help us? Because that's what civilization means. We're strong enough to destroy you. We're also strong enough to show mercy. And mercy, High Imperator, is not weakness. It's the truest form of strength. The reptilian was silent for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice carried something that might have been respect. 3,000 years, Admiral. The Council has ruled for 3,000 years. We forgot what it means to face a true peer, to face a species that can match our strength and exceed our wisdom. He stood. I accept your terms. The Council will withdraw. Earth will have its independence. Thank you. But Admiral, this will not be the end. The Council has 8,000 ships across 200 systems. When they learn what happened here, they will mobilize everything. This was one battle. The war has just begun. Blackwell nodded slowly. I know, and we're ready. After Zarthekon departed, Blackwell stood alone in the conference room. Through the viewport, she could see the aftermath. Disabled Council ships drifting, human medical vessels moving between them, rescue operations ongoing. Grimwood entered. Admiral President Hartwell is requesting secure communication. Priority 1. Route it here. The wall screen activated. President Evelyn Hartwell appeared. 58 years old. Grey hair. Lines of stress around her eyes. She looked like someone carrying the weight of a civilization. Admiral Blackwell, I've reviewed the battle recordings. Hartwell's voice was carefully controlled. 4 hours, 0 casualties. Complete victory. Yes, Madam President. And you're helping them rebuild. Yes, ma'am. It seemed appropriate. Hartwell was silent for several seconds. Then she smiled. Actually smiled. 300 years of preparation, and we prove ourselves not by destruction but by mercy. Well done, Admiral. Very well done. Thank you, Madam President, but this was just the opening move. Zarthekon warned that the full council will mobilize. 8,000 ships, maybe more. Can we win? Yes, no hesitation. We can win. The question is whether the council understands the cost of making us prove it again and again. Then prepare for the next phase. And Admiral, keep showing them that mercy. Keep proving we're better than they assumed. Eventually, they'll understand. The transmission ended. Blackwell stood at the viewport, watching the rescue operations continue. Over the next 3 weeks, humanity demonstrated its commitment to mercy. Human engineering teams boarded damaged council ships. They repaired reactors, stabilized life support, made vessels space-worthy enough to limp home. Green and Vesh engineers watched in amazement as humans worked around the clock to save ships they had just crippled. Medical facilities on human stations treated over 20,000 wounded council personnel. Doctors who had never seen alien physiology, they studied frantically, learned, adapted, saved lives that would have been lost. And slowly, grudgingly, the council began to understand. These humans were not conquerors. They had demonstrated the capacity for overwhelming violence, but chose restraint. They had shown they could kill with impunity, but preferred to save lives. It was confusing, contradictory, and completely outside the Council's 3,000-year experience. On the fifth day after the battle, Admiral Thraknor of the Vesh Collective found himself in the medical bay of the USS Retribution. His injuries were severe. Compound fractures, internal bleeding. He should have died when his ship was hit. Instead, a human doctor named Patricia Kellerman had operated for 6 hours, stabilized him, saved his life. Now he lay in a recovery bed, watching the doctor make her rounds. She moved efficiently between beds, human and alien patients both, treating everyone with the same professional care. "Doctor," Thraknor called out. His translator rendered his clicking speech into English. "May I ask you something?" Kellerman approached. "Of course, Admiral. How are you feeling?" Confused. The Vesh officer struggled to sit up. Kellerman helped him adjusting the bed. "Your species just defeated my fleet, killed thousands of my people. Why save me?" Kellerman was quiet for a moment, then pulled up a chair, sat beside his bed. "Because that's what we do," she said simply. "We're doctors. We took oaths to save lives, to heal, to do no harm. Those oaths don't have exemptions for enemies." "But we attacked you." "Yes, and we responded. We defended ourselves. But the battle is over now, Admiral. You're not my enemy anymore. You're my patient." Thraknor processed this. His species understood honor, understood duty, but mercy toward defeated enemies was not part of their cultural framework. "This is why you'll win the war," he said finally. "Not because of your weapons, because of this, because you can be strong without being cruel." Kellerman smiled. "I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope the Council sees reason, but if not..." She shrugged. "We'll do what we have to, and then we'll help clean up the mess. That's civilization, Admiral." On Earth, President Hartwell convened an emergency session of the Security Council. The recording of the Battle of Kepler Expanse had been broadcast across human space. Every colony, every station, every citizen had seen 4 hours of footage showing humanity's fleet dismantling the Council's might. The reaction was complex. Pride, certainly. 300 years of sacrifice and preparation had paid off. Humanity could defend itself, could stand against the galaxy's dominant power, but also concern because this was just the beginning. The Council would not accept defeat easily. More battles were coming. More blood would be spilled. "We need to prepare for total war," Admiral Harrison said. The old man looked tired. 64 years old. He had been planning for this moment his entire adult life. Now it was here. "The Council has 8,000 ships. We have 3,400. The mathematics are not in our favor. Unless we don't fight their kind of war." Blackwell's voice came through the communications link. She was still aboard the Retribution overseeing the rescue operations. "We can't match them ship for ship in traditional engagement, so we don't fight traditionally." "Guerrilla operations?" Hartwell asked. "Exactly. Hit and run. Target their supply lines. Force them to spread their fleet thin, trying to defend everything. Make the war so costly that victory becomes impossible. That could take years. Better years than extinction, Madam President." Hartwell nodded slowly. "Very well. Admiral Blackwell, you're authorized to begin Phase 2 operations. Select your targets. Coordinate with Captain Ravencroft's fast attack squadrons. And Admiral..." "Yes, ma'am. Keep showing that mercy. Keep proving we're better. Eventually, someone on the Council will realize peace is preferable to endless defeat." Over the following weeks, humanity launched a systematic campaign unlike anything the Council had experienced. Captain Ravencroft's fast attack squadrons struck like ghosts. They appeared without warning at Council supply depots, disabled the defensive platforms with zero-point disruptors, destroyed fuel reserves and ammunition stockpiles, then vanished before reinforcements arrived. But they didn't kill the personnel, didn't destroy the stations completely. They disabled and withdrew, leaving the Council with expensive repair bills but minimal casualties. Other human strike groups targeted shipyards, not the civilian facilities, the military construction yards. They would jump in system, unleash phase shift torpedoes at the orbital docks, destroy months or years of construction in minutes, then jump out. Again, minimal casualties. They timed their attacks for shift changes when fewer workers were present, gave evacuation warnings, made sure medical ships were standing by. They were fighting a war, but they were fighting it with one hand behind their backs, deliberately showing restraint, proving they could kill but chose not to. The Council didn't know how to respond. Their entire military doctrine was built on overwhelming force and intimidation. They fought wars to crush rebellions, to demonstrate their superiority. They didn't fight wars of attrition against opponents who refused to engage in traditional battles. Within 30 days, the Council had lost 15 major supply depots, 8 shipyards, 197 patrol vessels, countless amounts of material and equipment, human losses, 23 personnel wounded, 0 killed, and with each engagement, more captured Council personnel were treated well, given medical care, allowed to communicate with their families, eventually released in prisoner exchanges. Stories spread across Council space. Stories of humans who fought like demons but treated captives humanely, who could destroy completely but chose to disable, who showed strength through mercy rather than cruelty. It was confusing the galaxy. On the Council station, High Councilor Isara Valshin met with the other Council members. The mood was tense. Zartekon had been stripped of his command, disgraced. The High Imperator who had ruled military operations for 30 years was now a civilian administrator, assigned to oversee agricultural development on a backwater colony. The irony was not lost on anyone. We need to respond. Council member Thex of the Quilix species argued, the humans are making us look weak, indecisive. Because we are weak, Valshin said quietly. We've grown comfortable. 3,000 years of ruling without challenge made us complacent. Now we face a species that actually knows how to wage war, and we're discovering our military might was always more appearance than substance. Then we mobilize everything. Thex's tentacles waved agitated. 8,000 ships, crush them before they grow stronger. And lose how many? Valshin looked around the chamber. The humans destroyed 400 ships in 4 hours with 0 losses. What happens when we send 8,000? Do we lose 2,000? 4,000, half our entire fleet. Silence. I am suggesting, Valshin continued, that perhaps we should consider negotiation. Real negotiation, not ultimatums, not threats, actual discussion of terms. The Council does not negotiate with rebellious species. Then the Council dies. Valshin's voice carried absolute certainty. Because these humans will not submit, and they will not stop. They have shown us they can fight indefinitely while maintaining moral authority. Every battle makes them look stronger and us weaker. Every act of mercy wins them support from other species who are watching this unfold. She stood, ancient even by Eldari standards. She had lived through the rise of the Council, watched it grow from alliance to hegemony, and now she was watching it face its first true challenge. We have a choice, she said softly. Adapt or die. The humans have shown us a new way, strength with mercy, power with restraint. Perhaps it is time the Council learned these lessons. The debate continued for hours, but seeds of doubt had been planted, and in the dark spaces between stars, humanity continued its campaign, patient, methodical, demonstrating day after day that they were here to stay. The galaxy was changing, and 300 years of preparation was proving its worth. Day 45. The Council's last gambit. Supreme Commander Valkorath stood in the war room on Council Station. Vesh, male, 60 standard years in military service. He had watched the recordings from Kepler Expanse 17 times, studied every human tactic, every weapon system, every maneuver. And he had reached a conclusion that terrified him. The humans were not just winning, they were demonstrating absolute technological superiority while simultaneously holding back, like a predator toying with wounded prey. Except the humans weren't cruel. They were proving a point. Supreme Commander. His aide entered, young, eager, the kind of officer who still believed in Council invincibility. The full mobilization is complete. 8,000 warships assembled at Rally Point Omega. All commanders await your orders. Valkorath nodded slowly. 8,000 ships, the entire military might of the Galactic Council. Every available vessel, every species contribution. The largest fleet assembled in 3 centuries. And he suspected it still wouldn't be enough. Order the fleet to Council homeworld, he said quietly. Defensive formation, maximum dispersal. Sir, we are not attacking human space. No, we are making a stand, here, at our center of power. Valkorath pulled up the tactical display, showed the glowing icon representing the Council's seat of government. 14 billion souls, the heart of their civilization. If the humans want to continue this war, they'll have to come here, to our home, where the entire galaxy can watch what they do. The aide's mandibles clicked nervously. You're using our homeworld as bait. I'm using it as a statement. The humans claim to be guardians, protectors. Let's see if they're willing to risk billions of civilian lives to prove their point. Valkorath's voice carried something that might have been desperation. Either they back down and we can negotiate from strength, or they attack and they reveal themselves as the monsters we always claimed they were. It was a brilliant strategy, ruthless, exactly the kind of thinking that had made the Council dominant for 3,000 years. It was also morally bankrupt, and Valshin would have stopped it if she had known. But Valkorath moved in secret, convinced that this was the only way to save Council pride, the only way to force humanity to show its true face. Within 72 hours, 8,000 warships hung in orbit around Council homeworld. A defensive sphere bristling with weapons, overlapping shields, redundant command structures. Everything the Council had learned in 3 millennia of warfare. And below them, 14 billion civilians went about their lives. Unaware, they had become hostages in a game of galactic politics. Day 48, humanity's response. They did what? President Hartwell's voice carried across the secure channel. Disbelief mixed with anger. Admiral Blackwell stood in her ready room studying the intelligence reports. Valkorath has massed the entire Council fleet at their homeworld. 8,000 ships, defensive formation. He's daring us to attack. With 14 billion civilians as shields. Yes, ma'am. Hartwell was silent for several seconds. He's trying to force our hand. Either we back down or we become the aggressors everyone feared we were. It's effective strategy, Blackwell admitted. Morally reprehensible, but effective. Can we win if we engage? Blackwell pulled up the tactical simulations her staff had run. Yes, with acceptable losses. Maybe 200 ships, 300 maximum. We'd still have numerical superiority after the battle. At what cost to the civilian population? That's the problem. Blackwell's jaw tightened. Valkorath is gambling we won't risk civilian casualties. That will negotiate rather than fight. He's using their own people as hostages. Admiral Harrison's voice joined the channel. There might be another option. I'm listening, Hartwell said. We don't attack. We don't negotiate. We demonstrate. Harrison paused. We show them a weapon so overwhelming, so terrifying that continued resistance becomes unthinkable. And then we prove we're civilized enough not to use it. Blackwell understood immediately. Project Prometheus. Yes, Hartwell's face showed conflict. That's a line we swore we'd never cross. We're not crossing it, Harrison countered. We're approaching it, showing them where it is and then stepping back. That's the entire point. Explain, Hartwell demanded. Blackwell pulled up the classified files. 7 years ago, we completed development on the Helios-class Stellar Disruptor, designation SDS Prometheus, and 6 sister ships. They're 30-kilometer platforms designed for stellar engineering. Theoretical applications include star lifting, stellar reignition, controlled supernova triggering, and theoretical weapons applications. They can destabilize a star, create a cascading fusion reaction. The host system would be destroyed within 72 hours. The silence on the channel was profound. You're suggesting we threaten to destroy their sun? Hartwell's voice was barely a whisper. No, Blackwell said firmly. I'm suggesting we deploy the platform, show them we have the capability, and then explicitly not use it. Prove that we could commit genocide and choose not to. That's the ultimate demonstration of restraint. It's also the ultimate intimidation. Yes, ma'am, it is. Hartwell drummed her fingers on her desk, the nervous habit more pronounced now. If we do this, there's no going back. The galaxy will know we possess star-killing weapons. Some species will see that as proof we're the threat they feared. Others will see it as proof we're trustworthy. Harrison countered. That we hold ultimate power and choose mercy. That's the entire foundation we're trying to build. And if Valkorath doesn't believe we'll hold back if he thinks we're bluffing, then he's even more foolish than Zarthekan, Blackwell said. We've done everything we said we would, demonstrated every capability we claimed. We don't bluff, Madam President. We state facts. Hartwell closed her eyes, the weight of the decision visible in every line of her face. She was being asked to authorize the deployment of a genocide weapon, to threaten an entire star system, 14 billion lives, to prove humanity was civilized enough not to use it. Do it, she said finally. Deploy SDS Prometheus. Make your demonstration. And Admiral Blackwell. Yes, ma'am. Make damn sure they understand we're not using it. This has to be crystal clear. We're showing capability while guaranteeing restraint. If there's any ambiguity, any confusion, this becomes the mistake that defines us for centuries. Understood, Madam President. The transmission ended. Blackwell stood alone in her ready room. What they were about to do would change everything. The careful balance of showing strength while proving mercy. The demonstration that humanity could be trusted with overwhelming power. Or it would confirm every fear the galaxy had about the sleeping giant that had finally awakened. She touched her comm unit. Commander Grimwood, activate Project Prometheus. Coordinates Council Homeworld System. Arrival time 72 hours. Acknowledged Admiral, Prometheus is en route. Day 51, the ultimatum. SDS Prometheus emerged from jump space 50 million kilometers from Council Homeworld's sun. The platform was enormous. 30 kilometers of stellar engineering equipment, magnetic containment fields that could bottle fusion reactions, quantum computers running stellar dynamics simulations, energy collectors that could siphon material directly from a star's photosphere. It was the most sophisticated piece of technology humanity had ever built, and it could kill 14 billion people in 72 hours. Valkorath stared at his tactical displays in horror. Every sensor was screaming. The gravitational signature alone was off the scale. And the energy readings. What is that thing? He whispered. His science officer checked her readings 3 times before answering. It appears to be Stellar Engineering Equipment Supreme Commander, but on a scale I've never seen. The quantum signatures suggest it's designed to interact with the star itself. To what purpose? The officer's voice faltered. To destabilize it. The war room fell silent. They wouldn't, Valkorath said, but his voice carried no conviction. An incoming transmission interrupted them. Universal broadcast. Every frequency, every ship, every station in the system. Fleet Admiral Meredith Blackwell appeared on every screen. This is Fleet Admiral Blackwell to Supreme Commander Valkorath and all Council forces. What you're looking at is the SDS Prometheus, Helios-class stellar disruptor. It is one of 7 such platforms humanity has built. She paused. Let that sink in. 7. Prometheus is capable of inducing stellar destabilization through controlled manipulation of fusion reactions in the star's core. Once activated, the process is irreversible. Complete system collapse occurs within 72 hours. Valkorath felt his heart pounding. Around him, his command staff stood frozen. I want to be absolutely clear about what I'm saying. We built this weapon. We have the capability to destroy your star and every living thing in this system. 14 billion souls would die. Another pause. Blackwell's face was stone. And we're not going to use it. Confusion rippled through the council war room. We built 7 of these platforms to prove we could. Now we're deploying 1 to prove we won't. This is not a bluff. This is not a threat. This is a demonstration of what civilization means. Blackwell leaned forward slightly. Supreme Commander Valkorath, you massed your fleet here, hoping we'd either back down or attack through your civilian population. You tried to force us to choose between appearing weak or acting like monsters, but you forgot something important. Her eyes were winter storms. We're not bound by your limited thinking. We don't have to choose between weakness and cruelty. We can be strong and merciful, dangerous and trustworthy. That's what you've never understood. That's what 3,000 years of dominance through force never taught you. She stood. Here are your options. Option 1. Withdraw your fleet. Order an immediate ceasefire. Begin genuine negotiations for peace. We'll power down Prometheus. Nobody dies. Nobody has to lose face. We simply start talking like civilized species should have done 3 months ago. Option 2. Continue this confrontation. Prometheus remains active. We maintain our blockade of your system. And we wait. We don't attack. We don't threaten. We just demonstrate that we can sit here forever with the ability to destroy you and choose not to. Eventually, your people will ask why you're continuing a war against opponents who are showing such restraint. Blackwell's voice softened slightly, just slightly. Option 3 is the one I hope you're intelligent enough not to choose. You attack our fleet. You try to destroy Prometheus, in which case we defend ourselves. And you'll discover that the 8,000 ships you've assembled aren't enough. You'll lose. Your fleet will be crippled, and we'll still not use Prometheus. We'll still show mercy to your survivors, and your people will know forever that you forced this outcome. She sat back down. You have 24 hours to decide. After that, we begin negotiations on our terms, or we maintain this standoff indefinitely while your economy collapses and your people question why their leaders can't end a war against opponents who are demonstrating superhuman restraint. Blackwell's face softened for just a moment, showing something human beneath the military authority. Supreme Commander, I don't want to do this. I don't want to sit here with a gun to your entire civilization's head. Even if I promise never to pull the trigger, the situation itself is obscene. But you forced this. You used your own people as hostages. So now we're going to show you what real civilization looks like. We're going to sit here with ultimate power and choose not to use it. That's the difference between us and you. That's what you need to learn. The transmission ended. Silence filled the council war room. Valkorath stared at the screen, at the tactical display showing the massive platform hanging near their sun, at the human fleet maintaining perfect formation beyond their defensive perimeter, at the evidence of his catastrophic miscalculation. They're serious, his science officer said quietly. The platform is active. It's running simulations, but it's not initiating the destabilization sequence. They really could destroy us, Valkorath said, and they really aren't going to, unless we force them to defend themselves. Valkorath looked around his war room, at the officers who had trusted his strategy, at the displays showing 14 billion civilians going about their lives below, at the 8,000 ships that suddenly seemed wholly inadequate. He had tried to trap the humans into revealing themselves as monsters. Instead, they had revealed him as the monster. Open a channel, he said quietly. Priority, diplomatic. I need to speak with High Counselor Valshin. Sir, do it. Now. Within the hour, Valshin had convened an emergency session of the full council. The debate was fierce. Some members still wanted to fight, still insisted the humans were bluffing. But most understood they were facing a species that held star-killing weapons, that could commit genocide with the push of a button, and was choosing not to. That level of restraint was more terrifying than the weapons themselves. It proved the humans weren't the threat. The council's own paranoia was the threat. Valshin called for a vote. The motion was simple: begin genuine peace negotiations on humanity's terms. The vote was close. Some species voted no. refused to accept the shift in power dynamics. But enough voted yes. On day 52, Valsheen transmitted humanity's response. The council accepted the offer to negotiate. Valkorath would withdraw his fleet. Prometheus could power down. And the galaxy would learn that humanity had held the ultimate weapon and chosen not to use it. That choice would echo for generations. Day 54 of the war arrived with deceptive calm. Fleet Admiral Meredith Blackwell stood in the observation dome of the USSS Retribution, watching Council homeworld rotate slowly beneath the ship. The planet looked peaceful from orbit, cities glittering like scattered jewels across the surface, ships moving between stations in orderly traffic patterns, 14 billion lives continuing as if the sword hadn't been hanging above them for 3 days. But everything had changed. 54 days ago, the Galactic Council had believed humanity was prey, weak, easily dominated. Now they knew different. Now they understood that 3 centuries of apparent peace had hidden not just military might but moral authority. The question was, what happened next? Admiral, Commander Grimwood's voice came through her earpiece. SDS Prometheus has completed power down sequence. All systems inactive. Engineering confirms the platform is in stable configuration. Acknowledged. Begin jump prep. I want Prometheus back in the Oort cloud within 12 hours. Yes, ma'am. An Admiral incoming transmission. Council station. High Councilor Valsheen requests communication. Private channel. She says it's urgent. Blackwell touched her comm unit. Route it to my ready room. I'll take it there. She walked through the ship's corridors, past crew members who straightened and saluted as she passed. Faces she had memorized, names she knew. These 73,000 personnel across the fleet were her responsibility. Their lives, their futures. The weight of command never lessened. You just learned to carry it better. The ready room was exactly as she had left it. Desk with its data terminals. 2 chairs. She sat, composed herself, then activated the view screen. Isara Valsheen appeared. The ancient Eldari looked tired, lines of stress visible even in alien features. Those 2 large eyes held something that might have been relief. Admiral Blackwell, thank you for accepting my communication. Counselor. Blackwell kept her tone neutral, professional. I assume this is about the negotiations. Yes, but first I must say something. Valsheen paused. What you did with Prometheus was, I have no words in any language that adequately capture it. You held the power of a god, and you stepped back. We're not gods, counselor. We're humans. We make mistakes like everyone else, but we try to learn from them. You deployed a genocide weapon to prove you wouldn't use it. That's either the most brilliant psychological operation in galactic history or genuine evidence of moral authority. I believe it's the latter. Blackwell was silent for a moment. Counselor, I want you to understand something. That decision nearly broke our government. President Hartwell didn't sleep for 3 days. She understood that if anything went wrong, if there was any misunderstanding, she would go down in history as the leader who threatened 14 billion innocent people. But she did it anyway. Because Valkorath forced our hand, he used your own population as hostages. We responded by showing that we could be trusted with ultimate power. That we value civilian lives, even enemy civilian lives, more than military victory. Valsheen nodded slowly. Which is why I am contacting you now. The council has voted to begin formal negotiations, under your terms. But Admiral, I need to warn you. Some council members still resist. They see in this as humiliation. They will try to sabotage any agreement. Then they'll discover that continued resistance is futile, Blackwell said flatly. Counselor, we've been patient. We've shown restraint. We've demonstrated that we can win this war decisively. At some point, the hardliners need to accept reality. I know, which is why I'm proposing something unprecedented. I'm listening. Meet me, in person, not on a neutral station, not through diplomatic channels, face to face, just you and me, 2 people who understand what's really at stake. Valsheen leaned forward. I've lived a very long time, Admiral, long enough to recognize when systems are failing. The Council's way of ruling is no longer viable. You've proven that, decisively. But we need to build something new, and that requires trust. Blackwell studied the Eldari, searching for manipulation, for hidden agendas. She saw only genuine hope mixed with exhaustion. Where Council Station, my private chambers, no security, no recording, no one else present, just a conversation between two leaders about the future. That's asking a lot of trust, Counselor. Yes, it is, which is why I'm asking. Trust has to start somewhere. Let it start with us. Blackwell was silent for several seconds. The tactical part of her brain screamed this was a trap. The human part recognized genuine sincerity. I'll need to consult with President Hartwell, she said finally. But, Counselor, if I come and this is a trap of any kind, we deploy all 7 Helios platforms simultaneously. I won't hesitate. I would expect nothing less. Valshin's expression showed something that might have been a smile. Contact me when you have your answer, Admiral, and may wisdom guide us both. The transmission ended. Blackwell sat alone in the ready room. A private meeting with Valshin. No witnesses, no protection. It was either genuine outreach or the perfect assassination opportunity. She contacted Earth. President Evelyn Hartwell convened an emergency session of the Security Council within 2 hours. The Situation Room beneath Geneva was designed for exactly this kind of crisis. Secure, shielded, connected to every military installation in human space. Around the conference table sat the most powerful people in human government. Military commanders, intelligence directors, diplomatic advisors. All of them had spent their entire careers preparing for war with the Council. Now they were being asked to consider trust. The question is simple, Hartwell said, opening the discussion. Do we trust Valshin's offer, or is this an assassination attempt? Admiral James Harrison spoke first. Our intelligence suggests Valshin is genuine. She's been the moderate voice throughout this conflict. If anyone on the Council truly wants peace, it's her. But, Hartwell prompted, but she's not in complete control. The hardliners could use this opportunity. One shot, one bomb, and humanity's military leader is dead. Which is why we don't send the Admiral alone. Secretary of State Margaret Ashford said, we send her with protection, subtle but effective. Valshin specifically requested no security. Blackwell's voice warmed through the communications link. She was still aboard the Retribution. If I show up with guards, it defeats the purpose. This is about trust. Trust that could get you killed, Hartwell said bluntly. Maybe. But, Madam President, think about what we've done. We destroyed their fleet with 0 casualties. We helped rebuild their ships. We deployed a star killer and didn't use it. At some point, we have to demonstrate that trust goes both ways. You're willing to bet your life on that. I'm willing to bet my life that Valshin is genuine and that building peace requires taking risks, calculated risks, but risks nonetheless. Hartwell looked around the table, saw concern in every face. These were people who had spent decades preparing for threats. Being asked to embrace vulnerability was psychologically challenging. If you go, Hartwell said finally, you wear a neural transmitter, constant feed to the Retribution. First sign of threat, Grimwood evacuates you by force. Non-negotiable. That's acceptable. And Admiral, if this is a trap, if Valshin betrays you, Hartwell's voice dropped. We deploy all 7 Helios platforms simultaneously to different Council systems. We don't use them, but we make damn sure every Council world wakes up to the reality that their leader's treachery just put them all at risk. Understood, Madam President. The transmission ended. Hartwell dismissed most of the Council but kept Harrison and Ashford, 3 people who understood the stakes better than anyone. Margaret, Hartwell said quietly, honest assessment. Can this work? Ashford was silent for a long moment. If Valshin is genuine, this could be the breakthrough we need. Face-to-face diplomacy, building personal trust. It's how real peace gets made. And if she's not genuine, Then we lose our best military commander, and the war continues, with both sides even more entrenched. Harrison cleared his throat. There's another consideration. If Valshin is genuine, and we refuse this meeting, we signal that we don't trust the council. That makes negotiations nearly impossible. Sometimes you have to extend trust to receive it. Hartwell nodded slowly. Then we let her go. And we pray Valshin is who she appears to be. 2 days later, Admiral Blackwell stood in the docking bay of Council Station. She had arrived in a small courier ship. Minimal crew, no weapons. She wore her dress uniform. Not body armor, not tactical gear. Just the formal attire of a flag officer conducting diplomatic business. A gesture of trust. Valshin met her personally. The ancient Eldari stood alone in the bay. No guards, no aides. Just one very old being who had lived long enough to understand that sometimes courage meant vulnerability. Admiral Blackwell, thank you for coming. Counselor Valshin, I hope this trust is well placed. As do I. Valshin gestured toward a corridor. My chambers are this way. Please follow me. They walked through the station in silence. Other council members stared as they passed, whispering, wondering what the human admiral was doing here, whether this was negotiation or trap. Blackwell's neural transmitter hummed softly against her skull. Grimwood would be monitoring, ready to act if needed. Valshin's chambers were surprisingly modest. Books, actual physical books, lined the walls. A desk covered in data tablets. A viewport showing the stars. It looked like the office of a scholar, not a politician. Please sit. Valshin gestured to a chair, settled into another one across a small table. Would you like refreshment? I have beverages compatible with human biology. No, thank you, counselor. Let's talk. Valshin nodded. Very well. Admiral, I'll be direct. The council is dying. Not quickly, not obviously, but it's dying nonetheless. 3,000 years of ruling through force has left us hollow. We forgot how to govern, how to inspire loyalty through anything except fear. And now you've removed that fear. You're welcome, Blackwell said dryly. A ghost of a smile touched Valshin's features. Indeed, but now we face a problem. The council can't defeat you militarily. We've proven that rather conclusively. But we also can't simply surrender. The political backlash would fracture us completely. Dozens of species would declare independence. The galactic order would collapse. Is that necessarily bad? It is, if the alternative is chaos. Admiral, the council may be flawed, but it provides structure. It resolves disputes. It maintains trade routes. It protects weaker species from exploitation. If we dissolve overnight, you'll have 100 regional wars within a year. Blackwell considered this. So what are you proposing? Evolution, not revolution. The council transforms into something new. A confederation of equals. No more ruling body. Instead, a forum for cooperation, where sovereign civilizations meet to discuss mutual interests. Valshin leaned forward, and humanity becomes the first partner in this new system. Why us? Because you've demonstrated the qualities necessary to make it work. You're strong enough to defend yourselves, trustworthy enough to hold ultimate weapons and not use them. And most importantly, you understand that power should serve justice, not ego. Blackwell was quiet for a long moment. Counselor, what you're describing is revolutionary. It would fundamentally reshape galactic civilization. Yes, it would. And it's necessary. The old order is dead. You killed it. Now we need to build something better together or watch everything collapse into conflict. And the hardliners, the council members who still want to fight, will be outvoted. If humanity agrees, if you stand with me, I can carry the vote. But I need your commitment that you'll work with us, not just win the war, build the peace. Blackwell stood, walked to the viewport, looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Emma had died. 40,000 people had been murdered. 300 years of preparation had led to 54 days of war. For what? Revenge, domination, or the chance to build something better? My granddaughter wanted to be a farmer, Blackwell said quietly. She asked me once why we needed big warships. if we were a peaceful civilization. I told her to protect people who can't protect themselves. She turned to face Valshin. That's what we want to be, counselor. Guardians, not conquerors, not rulers. Guardians. If the council can accept that if you can transform into a cooperative forum where sovereign species meet as equals, then yes, we'll work with you. Valshin stood, extended her hand in the human gesture of agreement. Blackwell grasped it. Two civilizations, meeting as equals, building trust through vulnerability. Then let's reshape the galaxy, Valshin said softly. The formal negotiations took 3 weeks. President Hartwell traveled to Council Station personally, brought her full diplomatic team. Admiral Blackwell remained coordinating with her military counterpart. Secretary Ashford drafted language with Council legal scholars. The debates were fierce. Some Council species resisted every change, insisted on maintaining old hierarchies, old authorities. But Valshin held her coalition together, and humanity's demonstration of restraint had won them allies. Species that had feared the Council saw that humans had defeated them, then shown mercy. That was worth more than any diplomatic argument. The final treaty ran to 147 pages, but the core principles were simple. Article 1, humanity was fully independent, sovereign, equal to any Council species. Article 2. The Galactic Council acknowledged that the attack on New Horizon colony was wrong, issued formal apology, committed to never targeting civilian populations again. Article 3. A new galactic confederation would be established, open to all civilizations, each with equal voice, decisions made by consensus, not diktat. Article 4. Disputes would be resolved through arbitration and negotiation. Force authorized only for defense, never conquest. Article 5. Humanity would serve as guarantor of the Confederation's military security, not as rulers, as guardians, defending member species who faced external threats. The signing ceremony was held on day 78 of the war. Representatives from every human colony attended. Council delegate is from every member species. The ceremony was broadcast across both civilizations. Billions watched as President Hartwell and High Counselor Valshin signed the treaty. 78 days ago, they had been enemies. Now they were partners. When the signing concluded, Valshin requested permission to speak. Hartwell granted it. The ancient elderly stood at the podium, looked out at the assembled dignitaries, and spoke words that would be remembered for generations. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council has ruled through superior force. We claim to bring order and protection. But in truth, we brought dominance and subjugation. We forgot that strength without wisdom is tyranny. She paused, letting the words settle. Humanity taught us a hard lesson. They prepared for 3 centuries, built weapons that could destroy us utterly, held star killers over our heads, and then they chose not to use them. They showed us mercy, treated our wounded, rescued our survivors. They demonstrated that true civilization is measured not by capacity for destruction, but by wisdom in restraint. Valshin looked directly at Blackwell. Admiral, you could have genocided my people. You held weapons, capable of destroying entire star systems, 7 of them. And you powered them down. That choice, that simple choice, separates civilization from barbarism, guardians from tyrants. The room was silent. Today, we sign a treaty, but we also sign a commitment to build a galaxy where strength serves justice, where power protects rather than dominates, where children can dream without fear of orbital bombardment. Valshin's voice carried emotion now, genuine, raw. I am old. Very old. I have seen the Council at its best and worst, and I tell you now, this moment, this treaty is our finest hour. Not because we won, because we learned, because we chose wisdom over pride. She returned to her seat. Blackwell stood. She had not planned to speak, but the moment demanded it. Counselor Valshin is gracious, but let's be clear. This treaty exists because humanity was willing to fight, willing to demonstrate that submission was not inevitable. 300 years ago, we nearly died. We learned that the galaxy was not safe, that predators existed. She walked to the center of the stage, looked out at the assembled delegates. So we prepared. We built weapons. We trained soldiers. We became the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because we wanted to, because we had to, because survival demanded it. Her voice dropped lower, harder. But we also learned something else, something the council had forgotten. Power without purpose is meaningless. We could have used our weapons for conquest, for revenge. We could have turned our pain into cruelty. She thought of Emma, that gap-toothed smile. Instead, we chose mercy, not because we're saints, because we're human, because we remember what it means to suffer, to lose, to grieve, and we refuse to become the monsters that hurt us. Blackwell looked at Valsheen, then at the other council delegates. This treaty is not about humanity's victory. It's about civilization's survival. We nearly destroyed each other over pride and misunderstanding. Now we're choosing to build something better, not through dominance, through cooperation. She returned to her seat. The ceremony concluded. Later that evening, Blackwell stood alone in the observation dome of the Retribution. Council homeworld rotated below. Earth was visible in the distance, a faint blue dot among the stars. "You did it." Grimwood's voice came from behind her. The commander had entered quietly. 78 days ago, we were fighting for survival. Now we've reshaped the galaxy. Maybe, Blackwell said quietly, or maybe we've just delayed the next war. Time will tell. You don't think the treaty will hold? I think people are complicated. Civilizations even more so. Some council species will accept this new order. Others will resent it. In 10 years, in 50 years, someone will decide humanity needs to be put in its place. She was silent for a moment. "And we'll have to prove ourselves again. Then we'll win again." "Yes, but at what cost?" Blackwell touched the viewport. "Every war has a price, Thaddeus. We won this one, but Emma's still dead. 40,000 people are still gone. Victory doesn't resurrect the fallen." Grimwood had no answer for that. They stood in silence, watching the planets turn. 10 years later, Admiral Meredith Blackwell, retired, stood in her garden on Mars. Actually stood in it, not managing it from orbit, not reviewing it through video feeds. Actually here, hands in soil, growing things. She was 72 now, grey hair more silver than red, lines deeper around her eyes, but her hands remained steady as she tended the tomato plants. Farming, just like Emma had dreamed about. A transport shuttle landed nearby. Blackwell looked up, shading her eyes against the Martian sun. A figure emerged, wearing Admiral's insignia. Captain Isolde Ravencroft. Except she wasn't a captain anymore. Fleet Admiral now, commander of Earth's defense forces. The position Blackwell had retired from 3 years ago. "Admiral Ravencroft," Blackwell said, not rising. "This is a surprise." "Admiral Blackwell." Ravencroft approached. She moved with the same cold efficiency she always had. "Sorry to interrupt your retirement." "You're not sorry at all. You're here because something happened. What is it?" Ravencroft pulled out a data tablet. "The Trell Republic, on our border. They've been making aggressive movements, build-up of military assets, rhetoric about how humanity has grown soft, how 10 years of peace means we've forgotten how to fight." Blackwell sighed. She had predicted this, not the specific species, but the pattern. Someone always tested the boundaries, and they're testing our response time. Exactly. They raided a colony world yesterday. New Providence, minimal casualties. They were careful, but the message is clear. They think we've gone soft. Blackwell stood, brushed the soil from her hands, looked at the younger admiral. "What do you need from me?" "Permission, I suppose. Validation. You're still the hero who won the council war. If you tell me to respond with overwhelming force, the politicians will accept it." "That's not what I'm going to tell you." Ravencroft looked confused. "Ma'am, Isolde, let me ask you something. How many casualties in the New Providence raid?" 17 wounded, none killed. "And how many ships did they send?" 4. Corvette class, small. So they're probing, testing. They don't actually want a war. They want to know if we'll overreact. If we've become the aggressive empire everyone fears we might. Understanding dawned in Ravencroft's eyes. You want me to show restraint. I want you to show wisdom. Blackwell walked deeper into her garden. Ravencroft followed. Isolde, we won the council war because we were willing to fight. But we won the peace because we were willing to show mercy. If we respond to every provocation with overwhelming force, we become what we defeated. But we can't ignore aggression. I didn't say ignore it. I said respond wisely. Blackwell stopped at a memorial marker. Emma's name carved into Martian stone. Send 3 ships, not 300, 3. Disable the trail vessels. Don't destroy them. Rescue the crews. Show them the same thing we showed the council. That we could destroy them but choose not to. Exactly. And Isolde, when you have their commander in custody, treat them well. Figure out why they're really doing this. Usually it's not about conquest. It's about resources or territory or fear. Things that can be negotiated. Ravencroft was quiet for a moment. You make it sound easy, but walking that line between strength and mercy, that's harder than just fighting. Yes, Blackwell agreed. It is. Anyone can destroy. Any fool can wage war. Building peace while maintaining readiness, that requires wisdom. That's what makes us guardians instead of tyrants. Is that what we are, guardians? Blackwell, who looked at the younger woman, saw the same cold efficiency that had made Ravencroft such an effective combat commander, but also saw the uncertainty, the burden of command, the weight of choices that affected billions of lives. Yes, she said quietly. That's exactly what we are. We spent 3 centuries preparing for war. Now we spend our strength protecting peace. Not because it's easy, because it's right. Ravencroft stood a bit straighter. I'll handle the trail situation. 3 ships, disable and rescue. Just like you taught us. Good. And Isolde, when it's over, help them rebuild. Show them that working with humanity is better than fighting us. That's how you build lasting peace. The Admiral departed. Blackwell returned to her garden. She thought about Emma often. Would always think about Emma. That gap-toothed smile. Those dreams of farming. Gone in fire and violence. But Emma's death had not been meaningless. It had taught the galaxy a lesson. Taught them that humanity would defend itself with overwhelming force when necessary, but would show mercy when possible. 40,000 people died at New Horizon. Their memorial stood in the capital on Earth. Blackwell visited when she could, read the names, remembered the faces. But because of their sacrifice, the galaxy had changed. The council had reformed. Species were negotiating instead of conquering. Peace was holding, not perfect peace. There would always be conflicts, always be someone testing boundaries. But the foundation was solid, built on strength and mercy in equal measure. Blackwell knelt in the soil, planted new seeds, tomatoes and carrots and beans, things that grew with patience and care. You wanted to be a farmer, sweetheart, she said quietly, to the memory of her granddaughter. Guess that makes 2 of us. In orbit, the defense fleet maintained its watch. 3,400 warships, ready, vigilant, the same fleet that had defeated the council, the same weapons that could destroy civilizations. All of it existing to protect the right of old women to grow tomatoes in peace. That was civilization. That was what made humanity guardians. Emma would have understood. 50 years after the treaty, the Galactic Confederation had grown to 37 member civilizations. Species that once feared the council now sat as equals. Disputes were resolved through arbitration. Trade flourished. Cultural exchange programs brought different species together. It wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts, still misunderstandings, still species that resented humanity's role as de facto peacekeepers. But no one questioned humanity's commitment. Over 5 decades, the Guardian fleet had responded to 112 conflicts, sometimes with military force, sometimes with disaster relief, sometimes just with presence. Always with the same doctrine: strength with mercy, power with restraint. The memorial garden on Mars had expanded. Not just Emma's marker, thousands of names, human personnel who died protecting others, Guardian fleet members killed in peacekeeping operations. The cost of maintaining peace was not zero, but it was a cost worth paying. In the capital on Earth, a museum chronicled the Council War, the 78-day conflict that reshaped galactic civilization. Tourists from a dozen species walked through exhibits showing human preparation, the 3 centuries of patient building, the weapons that made victory possible. But the most popular exhibit was the last one. A simple room, dark, quiet, with one video playing on loop. Admiral Meredith Blackwell, 72 years old, standing in her garden on Mars, speaking to young officers visiting for guidance. Real strength isn't the ability to destroy everything, her recorded voice said. It's the wisdom to know when not to, not, we built weapons of genocide. We deployed them, and we powered them down without using them. That choice, that simple choice, separates civilization from chaos, guardians from tyrants. She smiled slightly, tired, worn by decades of service. That choice will echo for generations, long after I'm gone, long after everyone who fought in the war is gone, because we proved something important. We proved that power and mercy are not contradictory, that strength can serve justice, that civilization means being dangerous enough to protect the innocent and wise enough to restrain yourself. The recording ended, reset, played again. Visitors stood in silence. Human, Kreen, Vesh, Eldari, species that once tried to conquer each other, now learning together, learning the lesson humanity taught, that true strength comes not from capacity to destroy, but from wisdom to build. That guardians remember what wolves look like because once they were wolves. That the choice to show mercy when you could show violence is what makes civilization worth protecting. Emma Blackwell died at 7 years old, dreaming of farming. Her death bought a future where children across the galaxy could dream in peace. That was the price, and the victory, and the legacy that would endure. The Guardian fleet continued its watch, ready, vigilant, patient, because the choice, that simple choice, would echo forever.